Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Adventures of the Windswift. We've got a full crew and we are ready and raring to go as the last tendrils of the grand Drow mystery are slowly wrapping up. There's one or two things that are outstanding on that one, but we're going to breeze through those quite quickly as we see where the future takes us. And the Dice of Destiny is going to tell us who's going to tell us more about telling us about stuff that we need to be told about. Because I'm looking for dice while I'm talking nonsense. So here we go. Dice of numbers.
Dice of darkness, of transparency.
Dice. Oh, that's interesting. Anyway. All right. So number 6, Sophie, it's you.
Oh,
The
All right, what happened last time?
I have no idea.
It does sometimes, get a little confusing. But last time, Blaxton came along with the troops, and he joined us as we chased the Ice Elf into the tomb. And Jarek almost got killed by a blade. That was quite funny because he rushed ahead. Bad man.
I was trying to get things... Oh, sorry.
And it was lots of traps and lots of fun. But yes, we met up with Blaxton at the earthquake side with the Drow troops, and they came down as well, and we all went through and found we found that chamber with the animated walls that were very cool, and the mosaic with the ice elves defeating the dragons, and then we found the ice elf and we brought him down, and Con used hold person again to great effect, so that we could stop him from trying to kill himself, because we found the glands in the back of their mouths. So that's that mystery solved, how they kill themselves. And then we investigated the area. I had a look at the walls, and Con and Adversai went and almost got themselves killed by the...
I almost got us killed.
Right. Trying to be nice about that. And the Oct Relicar arrive, and they take all the artifacts that we have found off us, because, that's when we find out that they're dangerous and can distort time. We go back up to the surface to find that they have found the stowaway on the Windswift, which looks worse for wear upon our return. In fact, it is leaking, and we have to...
And sinking.
And sinking! We need to depart rather quickly to... help that, and we also have an injured crew to deal with, so off we go. We went to the war room to have a meeting about what had happened, and I have a note here that says the cook has a punctured lung. This is terrible news.
For him it is.
Well, now I know who you
For
care.
us as well. Your priorities straight. And so yes, Lieutenant Ty brought us the grace that they had found, and he had tried to sneak on board by blowing a hole in the side of the ship. And that was where we ended. Dun, dun, dun.
Very subtle.
Very subtle, yes.
Just
Correct. Right.
like a
So,
shadow.
you are in the war room. That's correct. We'll pick it up from there. Lieutenant Ty has just informed you that, yes, the ship needs to depart docks and get airborne as soon as possible, unless she takes on too much water, at which point she will actually sink. The flying ship will sink to the bottom of it.
Is Naxon Hashtahep uninjured?
He has been injured, but he is capable of piloting the ship, yes.
Good.
The question that I had was, are there no dry docks? Usually the harbor is where you repair your ship, right? So
there are plenty of dry docks, absolutely. If you wish to put in a dry dock, that's not a problem.
I mean, I don't know, but
Yeah, we
that
might as
not
well.
mean like better, easier repair? I mean, that's really up to the bosun, right? But
We have the Jock and Stokes with us, don't we? in the war room because we needed them debriefed as well, so we can ask them what their opinion is.
Sure.
Well,
I
the
mean-
repairs to the ship won't take us too much time. I mean, she's taken quite a lot of damage, and the fact that it's below the waterline is the biggest problem. I suspect he was trying to blow his way in underneath that waterline so that he wouldn't get seen doing it, right? But anyway, whatever the situation might be, if we're airborne, we can get her repaired in about 2 or 3 days. Shouldn't have too much problems. We probably won't be able to get to maximum altitude. Dry docks, of course, always expensive, always tricky, but you're the captain, so you get to decide, of course.
There's also the question of security. We've already been breached once. I would rather we be in the air than
If
being in
you
a dry
feel
dock.
confident that we can repair in flight, then we should probably take off before we take on much more water.
I think we were back on our way to headquarters anyway, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But didn't we still have some business in the Underdark? We were going to go back and speak to the Star.
Yes. We can use the skiff if we absolutely need to leave.
If nothing else, I think we would have, lose something profound if we didn't go see your theater performance, Blaxton. If we missed that, I think I would regret that for a very long time.
I would.
Actually, to retcon, I'm not actually present. Sorry.
Oh yeah, you went off to the...
That's right.
Yeah, you were with
The cook.
Harrigan.
Blaxton.
All right.
Correct. Forgot about that. All right, so the orders are to set sail and then take off as soon as possible.
Before we would want to leave the ship before we do this, right? And we still need to talk with our blind passenger, or supposed blind passenger, before we do that.
I need to interrogate the prisoner.
Yes. While you do that, I think I could be of most use assisting repairing crucial components.
Yeah.
If we have anything small that is very difficult to replace, I could do that.
The others are still with us, right?
Absolutely.
Can we then? Are there any more questions for them? I don't have any.
No.
All right,
Nope.
then.
Just so we're clear, we're going to take the ship out, get an airborne, and you're going to take the skiff to come back, or you want us to...
Sure, that works.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so that's exactly what happens. The ship breaks her moorings.
So as they leave and we are with us captains only again,
Right.
I would then turn to Adorosai and say, well, there is also that you need to secure and safeguard certain things we acquired for the meantime, right?
Yes.
Is
First
that-
of all, once I've helped with any crucial repairs, I want to finally find out what those damn stones do.
is this
Just be
really
careful.
necessary?
So,
I'm sorry? What
Was
did you
this
say?
not towards me? Okay, is this really necessary?
Well, I'd rather not have some intensely powerful magical artifacts on this ship if I don't know what they do.
He has a point.
Speaking of which, I still have this stone. You can take it.
Yeah.
And
can take
I
mine
then
back
for the
too.
meantime I would propose we keep them not
Yes,
together.
separated. Let's keep them separated for
Yes.
now until we actually know what they do.
And
Okay.
is
Hold
there
on.
anything we can accompany you to get more stable environments, not doing it in the dungeon next to some skeletons this time?
I should be fine. I still have a lot of things to learn about this book, such as what happens if I'm inside this library and my comprehend languages spell runs out.
And I would say, but don't do any. I think we could agree that you shouldn't be alone doing this if something might happen.
I agree.
Yes. Is there I suppose it would be in a room with navigation and stuff, a timepiece, like what's it called, an hourglass?
yeah, the
because
ship has an hourglass, absolutely.
Like
Yes,
time-
I'm going to have to borrow that because...
sundial.
I mean, unless one of the gnomes have a timepiece, but the hourglass works fine for our purposes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go help with repairs, depending on how much there is. That might probably about the same time as it'll take you to do an interrogation, I'm going to guess.
Yorick,
And then
do you want me
afterwards,
to
I can
be-
grab someone to accompany me or sit next to my lifeless body.
Yeah.
While I do
Don't
some
don't
research.
get it that far, please.
Well, yeah, okay, comatose.
Saket, you are skilled in this arcane stuff. Will you assist Adrosai?
I'm not very good at mending stuff. I'm good at breaking stuff, but mending stuff not so great. But I'll supervise her while she's in the book.
Yeah, and if something happens, you have the communication device.
Yes.
All
I
right.
also
So,
think Blaxton should put the little duchy into the stables now.
Well, and somebody else will need to take notes during the interrogation.
Yeah,
Yes.
I could
Speaking of which-
accompany you if you wish.
Yes, I was just about to say it's better if we're two, and I also believe you would have some skills that might be useful. So yes.
Oh, I can be very persuasive.
all right.
Very good.
So, that's where the four of you,
All right.
Con, you are with Harrigan in the infirmary. Give me a medicine check, if you please.
Is that
Sure.
He gets to do his job for once.
15.
There's a rather curious thing about Harrigan's wounds. They are fairly extensive, and they definitely look like bite marks and claw marks. They don't look like blade marks. There's no clean cuts here. This is all sort of rent and ripped, bitten and snapped. However, there are some very strange patterns that emerge when you look over the poor Drow's body. He is asleep, but the way that the marks have been inflicted, it doesn't make sense. This is someone who has not tried to kill the Drow. This is someone who has tried to disable the Drow in terms of nipping, bending, bruising, winding, that kind of thing, rather than anything else. And it's just not very good at disabling people. You can imagine someone tried a judo chop, only they needed to do it about 12 times and tried various parts
So
of
is
the
this-
body to get it to work.
Is this like Spaceballs? What is supposed to be? The grip. I do it like this.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly right. Exactly right. So it really looks like a rather inexpert individual has tried to disable Harrigan rather than to kill him, because by the sheer number of wounds on the Drow, it's obvious that they were involved in a battle for quite some time. And it was just a rather poor showing on behalf of Harrigan's opponent that Harrigan didn't die completely, right? Absolutely. So Harrigan is also, and this is something that's very clear, a particularly bad combatant.
Oh, he's a cook.
You can see from just the wounds on his hands and things, he wasn't trying to hit back. He was basically just throwing his hands up and trying to avoid being hit, which didn't really help so much. So anyway, that's certainly what you pick up from looking at him. He's going to live. He's not near death in any shape or form. But yes, that's what you pick up whilst the rest of the group is having their debate upstairs. You can feel the ship starting to rock and move as the waves start to pitch and pick her up. And you can hear the sounds of Takatuman, the Sajetti city above, well, next to, slowly getting softer as the scent of the sea starts to pick up.
Is our cook conscious?
He can be. You have several herbs that, if mixed together, will rouse him.
I rouse him.
All right. He looks up. Oh, I am alive. I am very happy.
You are?
I am very sore everywhere.
Yes, you appear to have fought quite valiantly, Harrigan. Well done. Fortunately, you're in no serious danger of anything. You appear to be in one piece. Well done. Here's this balm. If you rub this on the bruising, it will ease the pain. And if you get a lot of stiffness and pain in the morning, come and see me. I'm sure I can give you something for it. Perhaps you could tell me what happened.
Yes, it is about it was quite late when there was this explosion, which I heard. I was up because I was preparing this morning's bread mixtures. And there's explosion. I go to investigate it, and lo and behold, water is pouring in, and there is this very wet-looking grate lying on the floor. So I naturally approached the grate to see what was going on. And then the next minute, it's teeth and fangs, and as you say, I valiantly defeated my opponent by making sure that I put my body in the path of every single claw and tooth that he had. It delayed him long enough for Lieutenant High to arrive, and then for everybody else to arrive, and then I think he must have hit me on the head, because I do not remember what happened next.
Goodness me. Well, I think you're up for citation, at least for valor there.
Oh, no,
Well
we don't need to go that far. I am just a cook who happened to be...
A cook who has helped save his ship. Don't sell yourself short, Harrigan. We need good people aboard ships like ours. Everyone counts.
Oh, yes, I'm sure everyone... Yes, absolutely, sir. Sure, maybe a footnote in the notes.
Besides which, it would be terrible if we missed out on your wonderful meals.
Yes, that is absolutely true. Yes, I have spent my time very wisely whilst here in the Sajeti Empire, and I think that Lady Saket will be most impressed when I present her with the dishes I have learned how to make whilst being here.
Absolutely.
But maybe not today or tomorrow. I do not feel like making anything.
I'm sure you could find someone to assist you for the next few days. Try and take it easy. You have sustained quite severe bruising to your ribs, and it will be quite painful. But fortunately, it doesn't appear to be broken.
Oh, that is good.
Lucky. Yes, you're clearly made of sterner stuff than you feel. I think...
If I could mention a little something before you go too far forward. I don't think the Wraith was necessarily the one responsible for the explosion.
Well, it would seem rather an odd way to gain entry to the ship, especially considering how you found him.
Oh, yes. How I found him once the explosion had gone off. Yes, absolutely. Yes. It was very weird. Very strange.
What were you going to say?
How I found him after the explosion.
Before
that, give me an insight check, please.
I don't think that's necessary.
Ooh, well, the dice are kind. That's 24.
You've been around Drow for a little bit now, and so you've started to realize...
Far too much for my taste.
Right? So there are tells when Drow are not being totally honest, not being totally open. And one of the easiest tells is to look at the tips of the ears. Like most elves, there's a large amount of blood flow that goes there. So when the ears tend to turn a slightly darker purple, there's generally some kind of embarrassment factor going on. His are very, very dark purple, and it's not just from the bruising.
Now, Harrigan, I am your doctor. You know that whatever you share with me in this infirmary is between the two of us.
It's strictly between the two of us, sir?
Yes, of course.
As in, it can't be used against me? To have my head cut off?
Well, now you're starting to alarm me a little bit, but I think you really should tell me under the circumstances. I promise that if there is any circumstance under which your head should not be cut off, I will find it.
I think that's okay then. I found him in a tavern.
I sit down in my chair, pour myself a drink. Go on.
He was in You know when Adrosai has this look in the eyes, usually when I'm making fresh bread or there's milk around and the eyes go big and sad and desperate.
I don't believe I've seen that, but then I'm not handling bread and milk.
Adrosai's in the kitchen quite a lot, actually. He had similar look, and we got to talking, and I may have invited him onto the ship.
Harrigan?
He didn't say he was a great assassin, and since we had dealt with them before in the Chung, I thought the ship, maybe it wasn't a bad thing. He
What were you
down
going
on
to
his
do
luck.
on the ship?
Really was only coming back here for coffee. You understand my meaning, sir?
Yes, quite so. Oh, Harrigan, you would not be the first youngster to be fooled by an operative.
I don't think he's an operative, sir. He's just very nervous. And then the explosion happened, and that was worse.
So let me get this straight. You picked up a random Grace in a pub and brought them home, and then the ship exploded.
Only random for the first hour. After then, I thought I knew him. But then the explosion happened, and he said it would probably be better if it looked like I was defending the ship rather than...
From him?
He said it was going to happen anyway because he's Graith.
I see. Oh, Harrigan. Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for telling me. I don't think we're in any danger of having your head cut off just yet. But let's put it this way. I think I'll agree you are confined to the vessel until one of the other captains or myself says otherwise.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. If you could just avoid telling Lieutenant Tai, that would be great.
Well, I have to say, I have been on a bit of a voyage of discovery when it comes to people's social habits of late.
But Lieutenant Tai, you don't understand, sir. When you left the ship to go to the Underdark, she became a woman possessed.
I'm so sorry, Harrigan. That's my fault.
We're working 18 hours straight for days to run security drills and things. And last night was the first night that we were allowed off the ship. And, well, things happen.
I can't promise you anything, Harrigan, but for the time being, this certainly will remain between us.
I appreciate that, sir. I really do.
I strongly recommend that you don't go anywhere near the prisoner and then arrange for his meals to be delivered by someone else. Yes?
Absolutely, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If I catch you anywhere near that brig...
Don't worry, I will not be anywhere near there, sir. Definitely not. Yes, it will not.
Because I can't help you if you don't help yourself.
Yes, sir. Wait, what? No. Yes, absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Very good. Well, I think we're done here. I best go and find the others and see how we're getting along.
All right. So, to Sekhet's and Adrosai, you head off to try and help Waffen and Quallen, Jock and Stoke repair the ship. The blast site has been rather crudely patched together, and there is still water seeping in. And you can see that Quallen has set up a rather large mixture of wooden piping and metal conduiting. It is trying to pump the water out of this chamber. No, this is at the lowest part of the ship, and out onto another level, and obviously out into the ocean itself. So when the two of you arrive, they look at you, and you can see the blast. The timber has blown into the lower hull, into the chamber that you're in, and well, the only thing you can really help with, I suppose, is you can help man the pumps. Basically, you just pull on that lever there, and it'll suck out water and push it up to the next level.
I was more thinking if there are any like broken support beams or anything like that, I could probably patch them up. Something that's difficult to replace.
Well, thankfully, whoever did this, they obviously didn't really have a total understanding of the ship's infrastructure, because although they definitely blew a hole in the side of the ship, I don't think it was particularly well, how can I put it? If I was going to do it, I would certainly not have done it where they did it. Let's put it that way.
How so?
Well, this is just a part of the forward section of the lower hull. This is generally a stable area. I mean, this is where horses are kept. There's nothing safe or explosive here. I mean, it's just straw and old blankets and stuff. I don't even know why anyone would come down here anyway in the first place. But
well, if all they wanted was to get onto the ship, then it doesn't really matter where they blew the hole, did it?
Yeah, but he then looks. He points at the hole, and you can see that where it was it's a jagged kind of rip, and is probably only a foot in diameter. If you're going to get on the ship, you're not going to get on the ship through that unless you're a very wee person. One of us could get through there, I suppose. A very anorexic dwarf, perhaps, or maybe an elf, I suppose. A youngster could do it. Something like that, aye.
If they oiled themselves up, maybe. Some kind of grease.
Aye, I suppose that might work, but it's wood, so you've got splinters and things to deal with. You don't want to be pushing through that kind. And the blast hole's not neat if you look at it. This is a shockwave. You can both give me an Arcana check, please.
Yes. This basically looks like a cannon hole. Is that it?
Stop blowing holes in my ship!
21.
Someone had to set it.
It's not yours, it's his.
I know.
It's my ship.
Hello. I've done the paperwork.
What did you
roll?
get?
14.
14, all right. Well, Adversai, you pick up straight away that this hole is definitely magical in origin. And it speaks to something like, say, Thunderwave, but if it was a fist rather than a cone. Just from the impact perspective, obviously there's no ballista, there's no fire damage, there's no residue of any kind. The way the wood is warped and bent and broken, it looks like it was just hit with tremendous concussive force, which is principally to magic.
From the inside or the outside?
Definitely from the outside. There's no ways that the wood would have bent in this way. You can actually see the hull, instead of being a nice smooth curve, has kind of warped inwards slightly, and then just the center parts burst open.
Yeah. Well, you said that this crack was about a foot?
Correct.
Because mending lets me fully repair any damage that is no larger than a foot. So I can just fix the entire thing.
Well, the challenge
this is probably bent, but...
Well, this is the interesting thing, and this is again why you think it's more magic than anything else, is that you realize with mending you have to still have bits and pieces there to mend together, basically. Yeah. This has basically got sections that are completely obliterated, or they've been blown into the room and then washed away and that sort of thing. But it does look like if you were to mend it, you'd mend all the wood around it, and there'd still be a
Yeah.
decent sized hole in the middle where there just isn't any matter there at all. Again, speaking to magic. With your roll, you suspect it was definitely arcane magic. It's not divine magic. Saket, knowing what sort of magics are available here in Takatuman and Sajet itself, this probably came not from a caster, but from some kind of magical device. The reason why you say that is simply because it's such a pinpointed force. It doesn't speak too much to magic, more to a magical device that's been designed to do this kind of thing. Why here specifically? That really doesn't make sense.
Could it just be a distraction?
Maybe they also wanted to rescue Blaxton's little pet.
Well, as you say, could it be a distraction? Quallen looks up and goes, "Oh, no. It couldn't have been a distraction. No, the only way we knew that it was there was because Harrigan found it."
All right.
And there was a bit of an explosion, but we just heard a boom and thought nothing of it. And then Harrigan came up and collapsed on the deck all wounded, like, saying that there'd been an explosion.
Saket, you're the expert at things that go boom. Do you know specifically if there are any spells that make, or items that make the noise boom?
Well, there's quite a few that go boom.
Experts. This is expert talk.
I mean, yes, we could talk about, well, I guess in certain circumstances, a chromatic orb could do that, or thundershock, or flaming sphere, or...
Well, there isn't any scorching on the wood.
Or...
So it wouldn't be any kind of fire spell. It seems like some kind of arcane, more of a forceful, a pure force than any kind of elemental damage.
Correct. So there is something that does come to mind as you start to eliminate these various points of origin. Saket, the temple guards and the Pharos' guards are all armed with these very long scepter spear type of devices, which have a principal function of being imposing, but also if crowds start to get too busy, too massive, they can fire off these staves, which generally sends out a shockwave, which doesn't do any damage to the population, but it certainly unsettles them, it certainly jostles them, it certainly causes issues. And you have seen instances before in your past where people are running away and these staves have been tuned, if you like, to fire off a concussive blast that just knocks somebody onto their back. And they have an effective range of about 100 yards or so. So they're pretty long distance weapons, 100 feet or so. So they're pretty long distance weapons. It could be one of those discharged at close range, perhaps, because you are also underwater. So there is that potential.
Okay. I guess I'd tell Adressai about the staffs.
Right.
And do they go boom?
I guess they could go boom.
It's a slightly higher pitch sound generally in public, but you account for aquatic hydrostatic pressure and perhaps it would lower the pitch slightly, yes.
It's true.
So in theory, this could have come from underwater by somebody swimming and then hitting the ship.
Correct. As a matter of fact, that's the only approach that they could have taken. If you had fired this from above the water surface, the water itself would have parted, but you doubt that it would have had enough power to puncture through the side of the ship.
So I don't suppose anyone saw an approaching snorkel.
Or some kind of specifically hostile shark.
Yes, a well-armed shark.
With a boomstick.
That's a
Yes.
very clever shark.
All right, so we'll leave the two of you to ponder the implications of that as we head over to Blaxton and to Jorik as they head down to the prison or the jail on the ship.
On the way, I would speak with him and say, like, one thing that irks me. This great spy, doesn't seem very smart.
No.
Torpedoing a boat to gain access seems not a very subtle way.
Not at all. I mean,
And I don't...
Lieutenant Tai did describe that the explosion was in one place and the Wraith tried to sneak in another, but I don't...
Who
It's
knows?
still very, very...
I think there might be
Very
something
loud.
else. Might be something else on the work, or it's just stupid, which I kind of don't think will be true with the Wraith. They're usually much more capable than that. So
Yes. I figured we'll let him talk and see what he has to say before we start asking any direct questions.
I will follow your lead.
As you start to descend the short staircase down into the bowels of the ship where the jail is, you hear a very loud voice shouting, "Halt! Who goes there?"
It's Captains Blaxton and Jorek.
Oh, good. Okay, yes, it's safe. You can come
Mios.
down. Mios steps forward. You can see he's holding with his hand very shakily this rather large harpoon with which he's been standing guard.
Mios, what are you doing here?
I'm guarding the prisoners, sir.
By whose order?
Lieutenant Ties, sir.
Understood. You're relieved for now. We'll take it from here.
Go to the kitchen. I think they're a hand short.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.
And get this thing out of my face.
Right. Completely impractical for use down here. It's too long to be able to be used in the corridor anyway. He goes scurrying up. He stops a few steps. He turns back. He hasn't said anything, sir. Or at least nothing that I could understand. It's all been in that funny great speak that they use.
Oh.
I also think that perhaps Captain Con should have a look at him because, well, yes, he's injured.
In that
Well-
case, would you fetch Captain Con for us, please?
Yes.
He's in the infirmary.
And if he's in dire needs, I know some things about triage myself.
All right, he goes rushing off to go and sort that out.
We go down to the brig to see what we find.
Correct. So in the brig,
Are there more guards in the brig?
no, this is it. It was just Mios. The guards, you're not sure where they are, but you do get a sense as to why Lieutenant Tai was quite happy to just leave Mios in charge. You arrive to hear a very soft whimpering, and there is a very wet, or very damp anyway,
Dog.
Grape, who has... someone has taken the liberty of nailing his hand to the wall. And so he has his hand nailed to the wall and he's sort of holding on to that and whimpering. And as you approach, he sort of cowers down, looking very...
Nailing as in through his hand?
Yes,
Like
someone took a
Jesus?
nail and put a nail directly through his
It's fine with me.
hand, yes.
I
Jesus
curse
Christ.
under my breath as if we have handcuffs for a reason.
I just shrug and say, he's a spy, right?
We don't know that yet.
Well, he's not supposed to be on board.
No.
This is a order vessel, ergo he is spying.
We'll see what he says. I walk up to the cell,
bars,
I suppose
right?
you can call it. Yeah, the bars. So, why don't you start from the beginning? Who are you? And what are you doing here? And how did you get here? Tell me everything.
He hangs rather dejectedly on that nail. You can see he's bleeding fairly badly from that.
Is he?
Yeah, Blaxton, you're not really queued up on Wraith physiology, but if he's been hanging here for quite some time, he has lost...
Like one day, right? That's our information.
Correct.
Mm.
Correct. Well, yeah, a couple hours, eight hours or so at least. Yeah, he's probably by now starting to suffer, and you can see he's got some other wounds on him as well.
All right. So, would we have gotten the key from whomever had it? I assume Mios.
Sure. Yes.
Right, because otherwise, right. Then I would open the cage bars, go up to him
He
with a
shrinks down more.
cold, stern face. I'm not looking kindly, but I'm also not looking like I'm gonna hit him or something. That's not the intent. I just want to be cold and looking calculated, because in my eyes right now, he's a grave spy. So he might, from my point of view, his life is forfeit anyhow. Like if he doesn't really talk very quickly, right? But anyway, I'm not in the business of cruelty necessarily. Even if I think he would need to die, it would not need to be like torture.
Right.
If he cooperates. So what I would do is, so a nail usually has like a head which kind of anchors the thing, right? But we're not in an industrial time, so these are hammered manually. So that my question is, would it be easier to pull it off or just pull the hand through?
No, so there is a bit of a head on this just because of the hammer that slowly deformed the metal. Yes, so pulling the nail out.
These nails are like rather large, right? And it's a question how heavily it is locked into it, which would mean more suffering, right? Because if you kind of move around in the wound,
right, rather than ripping his hand through. Yeah, on the whole, ripping his hand off probably will be less suffering. He probably won't use his hand very much, but that's not likely to happen anyway.
I mean, that's a whole bit. So.
Right, absolutely. So yeah, restoration spell is going to be required one way or another.
Right. So what I'll do is I kind of just look at him, grab his paw or hand, or however this is in this case, over and below the nail, and just
yank it off. All right. There's a crunching, snapping sound as several tarsals snap from the pressure, and sinew is cut. He howls out in pain, and immediately he drops as almost a dead weight in your hands. He doesn't weigh very much. Yeah, basically like that. He doesn't have a weight. You realize that there's probably more hair here than there is actual growth itself.
Does he look emaciated as?
He doesn't look healthy, let's put it that way. Now that you're really up close, you can really feel the bones in that wrist. There's not a lot of meat on him at all. It's mostly damp fur. And he immediately shouts out, I'll tell you everything. I please, no more.
I then would inspect the wound and start to clean it and give him like some medical attention there to kind of stop at least the bleeding and the most immediate danger of it, like trying to keep it clean and such.
Sure. All right. So you start to administer to his hand. He looks up at you. He says, "This is not how it was supposed to go. The ship is in great danger. We need to get it away from the harbor as fast as we can. Please, that crazy woman wouldn't listen to me. They're going to try and kill me again, and that means destroying the ship."
All right. Who?
There are certain Sagetti individuals who are trying to kill me.
I'm going to need you to be a little bit more specific than that. Who is trying to kill you and why?
Oh, I see. I understand. All right. I have been through this before. I was trying to get on board your ship because my father told me that there was a space that had been prepared for me so that I might get out of the Empire. I have been here for quite some time performing various duties for the Wraith, which even if you try to torture me, I will not tell you what they are because I have been conditioned not to tell you. But in the last few months, things have been going rather poorly. The Sagetti have become suspicious of me and have been tracking me. And then last night, there was an opportunity for me to get onto the ship without causing any issues. There has been remarkable security aboard your vessel for the last few days, which I was assured was not going to be there. But apparently our information is incorrect.
So wait, he said Our ship was not going to be there.
Your ship was your ship was there, but the security was not going to be there.
Oh, okay.
Not as rigid as it was. I couldn't find a way onto the ship for 5 days. Which incidentally is how long it's been since I have last eaten anything. But I found a way onto the ship, and then they found me, and then they tried to attack me, hence the damage to your vessel. And they will try again, and...
Let's drop the pronoun game here. Who is they?
The Sajet.
There are many Sajet.
Yes. It is the Pharos' intelligence.
So you have not only been a spy with us, but also with the Sajet?
I have done no spying on you whatsoever. I barely know the layout of the ship, internally anyway. And it is not my mission to spy on this vessel. I was assured by my father that it was merely a safe place for me to come to. There is a room at the back of one of the corridors, which I have been
We are quite aware. We found it.
Then it was not built as best as it should have been. But I understand the deception. I see that there is absolute grounds for you to arrest me and incarcerate me. That is absolutely fine. I would just request that we don't do it within the Sajeti borders. They will be coming for me.
We are currently leaving the harbor, so you can calm down as far as that's concerned. But you said that the room was prepared for you by your father, or at least on the promise of your father. Who is your father?
My father is the... I might as well tell you. You'll find out one way or another. My father's name is... Well, he is Ambassador Collier.
We're familiar with him, yes?
Yes.
Yes. He said he had arranged a room for me that would not be detected, and all I needed to do was stay there for 3 days, and then he would secure my release from you.
I see.
So he just said then his father would secure release for him?
Correct, yes.
From us?
Yes.
Okay.
Apparently you owe him a favor.
Yeah.
And who would you be? What is your name?
I'm his son. My name is Huntkin.
And you already explained why you're on the ship. You were trying to hide from the Sajeti, you say?
The Pharos' intelligence divisions, yes.
How did you intend to get onto the ship? Originally, before you found all the security?
My father had instructed me that there was very little security on board the vessel and that the incumbents were not exactly the most observant. It shouldn't have been difficult to sneak on board and find the room and never be found. Only when I approached, there was absolute vigilance. The rotation
This is
of
an
the guards.
order vessel. I think your father will find that he is mistaken in a great many things.
I understand my situation, but my father was able to build a room on your vessel without being stopped.
This is correct, but the room was detected.
And
Rather
the spy
swiftly, I might
caught.
add. And the spy caught. Yes, indeed. So, assuming that you are here to escape the Sajeti and you're not here to spy on us, let's assume that for a second. What happens next?
If it is true that you do owe my father a favor, I would hope that you would then release me to him. That would be my hope.
Think about that statement for a second. Your father built a secret compartment aboard an order ship without our consent or knowledge. Asked for one of his operatives to stow aboard said ship, and then have said operative injure several members of the crew.
That was an accident. It was never meant to be that way.
Nevertheless, it happened.
Nevertheless, it happened, and you expect us to simply let it go because of a favor?
My father is the first great ambassador. I assume when he says he has a favor, it is...
Additionally, you know already that the Pharaoh knows that you're on board, so we would need to face them as well for losing you?
It could simply be a case if they questioned you of saying that you executed me and threw me overboard.
That is still not out of the question, by the way.
I understand this, and I appreciate the predicament that I am in, but I have no other choice. If I remain within the Sajeti Empire, they will kill me, and I have no choice but to escape.
What stopped you from simply booking passage on another ship, on any ship? There are hundreds, if not thousands, of ships that visit here every week, every month. Stowing aboard one of those would not have been difficult, would it?
The Pharos' reach is extensive. Any regular vessel will still take several days to leave port, as well as then will be bound to traveling on the ocean surface. Sajeti ships are very fast. It would be caught up with, and I would be found. Your ship will go places no other ship can go. Besides, it is the one that my father instructed me to take, so it is the one that I will take. If my father instructs me to take something, I will do it. One does not question Ambassador Collier.
Understood. Any further questions, Blaxton?
No, but he answered a few questions and I think it's the latter one of the ones I mentioned before.
We'll see to it that you get food and medical attention, but you will remain in the brig until we figure out what to do with you.
If you would
this
prefer,
is a diplomatic and legal kerfuffle.
I will happily wear a hood over my head or blindfolded, or I don't wish to aggravate the situation further.
Hardly possible.
Indeed. Right.
Neos knocks at your door. Excuse me, Captain. They requested your presence in the brig, sir.
I give a sideways glance at Harrigan as I take my medical bag and leave.
All right.
By the way, one more question that you didn't actually answer. How did you get on the ship? You only explained how you intended to get on the ship, but since there was so much security, well, how did you get on the ship?
I managed to convince one of the...
Who?
There's a very kind man amongst your crew. He
Who?
took
Name.
The nail is still in the side of the ship.
It was your cook, the Drow Harrigan. I played the part of the orphan, starving urchin. It is not his fault.
Yes.
You managed to convince the cook to bring you aboard. Is that correct?
I drugged him. I put something into his drink that made him completely under my control.
What did you put into his drink?
It is a great concoction.
Yes, but you must have a word for it.
Yes, we call it the hair of the dog. In your tongue, that's what it would be called.
I see. And what are the effects of this concoction?
General compliance and avoidance of loud noises, and generally individuals will do what they wish to do. We often use it in interrogation procedures.
I see. So you drugged Harrigan to get yourself on board the ship.
Yes.
How come no one else stopped you when you got aboard the ship? Harrigan is not the only member of the crew, after all.
No, but when he re-embarked the vessel, he managed to distract the other individual who was on duty, allowing me to slip aboard.
He assisted you in sneaking aboard.
He was under my control.
Of course he was.
I see. Very well. No further questions. Unless you have some, Blaxton.
No. But where's Con? I thought you would be here at this point.
Yes,
And
it
as
did
you
send
say that,
minutes for him.
his footfalls sound as he lowers down these steps and arrives on site.
Con. Hold one moment. I walk up and talk to Con out
I would
of
stay.
hearsay from the cell. You spoke to Harrigan?
Yes.
Yes, and did he tell you anything interesting?
Certainly.
Spill the beans.
Oh, well, what can I say? He was seduced.
Seduced.
Poor lad had a bit of the old curiosity twinge and went looking for it, and I guess he found it.
All
I'm
right.
sure that you and Blaxton will want to talk to him, but try and go easy on the lad. So I presume that your spy has been quite talkative, if that's the case.
Yeah, you could say that. He's got a story he's telling us, and it does match the evidence. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the truth.
No.
But yes, and he did tell us of Harrigan's involvement. When you've done checking the prisoner and his health, would you mind examining Harrigan if you can find any traces of toxins,
Something I can
poisons, or concoctions in him?
But I don't know if he can do it too.
Yes, well, it is fairly...
Because the prisoner claims that he drugged Harrigan. I would like to see if there's any evidence of that. Yes.
Interesting. Well, yes, I'm sure that I have something I can...
Right.
All right.
Blaxton, I raise my voice. Blaxton, can you see to the prisoner? I need to speak to the crew.
I have both my eyeballs on him.
Very good, thank you. And I go up the deck.
All right.
Before you do,
Address up.
because I looked at the map, the fancy handy map of the ship, and basically where we are is in the same room as the corridor outside. So would we hear them talking?
You can probably hear talking, correct, but not exactly.
Yeah, not what they're saying, but that those two are there.
Correct.
Because then we could go over and before Jorek goes upstairs, we could go over and tell them what we found.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely, not a problem. Because, time-wise, absolutely. So what are you telling him exactly that you found?
Yes, Androsai?
Well, it's mostly Saket's expertise, especially with the Sajet part of it.
Yes,
Well-
get to the point.
Something went boom, and we think it was one of those staff things.
That is very specific.
It's a staff that's carried by the guards of the Pharaoh, I believe you said. And it's a very small hole, not enough for someone to actually get through. I mean, like this big. And it was done from the outside, not the inside of the ship.
Possibly from the water level.
Under the water level.
Not in the water level.
Yes.
And apparently it went boom.
I
Then-
see.
Yes. It obviously didn't achieve what it was hoping to achieve.
Some kind of focus blast. Or, I mean, if it did, they could certainly have done a lot of things if they wanted to blow a hole big enough to get through, but that's not what they did.
But it didn't sink the ship.
No.
And it only knocked out somebody. That was their goal, to knock out somebody.
Yes, actually, who was injured by the blast?
Well, they told us that Harrigan was the one who found it. And Ed who told the others about it when he came staggering back upstairs.
Hmm.
And they said that was the only reason why they knew it was there as soon as they did.
Because otherwise they wouldn't have bothered to investigate soft. Boom.
Until their feet got wet, I suppose.
Understood. I'll go speak to Harrigan then, and we'll see what I can learn from him. Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, so where are the two of you heading out of Saket?
Well, I'm guessing I'm going to be accompanying Adressai on their little adventure.
Well, how about we do it somewhere you can keep an eye on the rest of the crew and what's going on above deck, just in case there is some more angry Sagetti guards showing up.
Okay.
Well, we could do it in the map room, perhaps. That'd be very close. We could keep the door open and you can keep an eye on the outside.
Warm, comfort, still able to look outside. Good plan.
All right.
All right.
So that's where the two of you head off to.
We'll start casting comprehend languages,
All right.
however you do it.
All right. So as you start to you head out up to the map room, and yes, the scene that is surrounding you, the ocean has now opened out. You've headed out of the bay of Takatuman, and a few ships here or there, but not a lot. You still have probably about a mile to go before you are safely and within regulation distance of the actual settlement before you can lift off. But the ship is going at full speed as fast as she possibly can. You can see Lieutenant Ty is at the wheel. She's making sure that everything is shipshape and running as smoothly as she possibly can. There is a sail that is behind you, and as the two of you step out onto deck, Lieutenant Ty does walk over to you, and she very quietly informs you, I think we're being followed. It's a Sajet vessel. They are being very cautious to keep their distance, but regulations require us to not have any observers when the ship takes off. Entirely sure what to do about it, actually. I'm hoping
that
to change course.
I don't think they will change course. They will continue to follow us, most definitely.
Have you signaled to them?
No, we have not. We can. I'm just not entirely sure what to signal. They are quite clearly tailing. They don't seem to have any intention of boarding us. They've had plenty of opportunity to outspeed us with that great big hole on our side. We're not moving at our maximum speed, and that's a Sagetti border harbour patrol craft. They can move very quickly when they want to.
So ask them, why are you following us? You're an order of the Hastari ship. They are a border patrol ship. You're well within your rights to ask them, why are you following us?
Absolutely. I was just cautious, given our cargo, that perhaps we'd taken on something that belongs to them. But if you're happy for me to communicate with them, I will engage and try to ascertain.
And deny all knowledge of any extra people on board.
Copy that. She goes over to Naxun and she says, how's your semaphore? And he nods, and they start to unfoil various flags and things, and they stand at the back of the ship, and he starts to wave and flag about. And she says, "I'll let you know what their response is as soon as they come back to us."
We'll be in the map room. Feel free to come in.
Very good. And so the two of you head into the map room. You start casting comprehend languages and that sort of thing. Con, you arrive at Blaxton to see a rather mangy, matted, damp Graith cowering in the corner. Blaxton appears to have bandaged or at least staunched the bleeding from one of his hands, which looks as if it were to be nailed to the wall.
I look at the wall and see the nail.
Oh, the poor wall.
My ship!
Cast all the healing spells.
You nailed the Graith's paw to the wall. Do we know?
I've got a guess, but I am not aware, and I do not think it is the utmost of the utmost importance right now.
Well, I'm sure you wouldn't, but disapprove nevertheless. And I give him a once-over check, medical examination.
It's you're not totally familiar with Graith.
While he does this, I would stand next to him with my hand on my sword.
Right, just in case any movement.
I hope you understand, I say to the Graith, that you've quite possibly orchestrated the death of my cook. I'm not very pleased about that.
What do you mean the death of your cook? I have explained already. He was completely under my control. He had nothing to do with this.
You clearly have very little understanding of how the Order works. It's not a very forgiving organization, much exampled by my compatriot here. So I may be wasting my time on you.
My life, it doesn't matter. Everything has gone wrong anyway. But you must understand, the cook.
I would then say, well, if you wish, if it comes to it, and if you wish for us to deliver your father a message, as you said yourself, we still owe him a favor.
What's this? Who's his father that we owe a favor to?
Koya.
Really? I'll look at him again. How did the son of an ambassador get into such a state?
I have been operating in the Sajet Empire for a while, and I made a mistake, if you must know.
I hope your father understands that in order to call in a favor, you have to ask.
I believe my father was intending to do so, but you say you found the room that he prepared for me?
Oh, what? That that was for you, was it? Well,
yes, sir.
It's been a revealing day.
To you.
So you used to try to seduce my cook.
I drugged him. I used a very powerful chemical to make sure he did my bidding. He is really not responsible for anything.
So knowing that he is a spy, me as a person, as a human being, I have a feeling that he is shielding him, obviously, right?
Right.
But I don't know if this is intended from you as the Dungeon Master, as an actor. So is there anything, like, knowing this, that my character would think this as well?
What, that the Graith is trying to shield Harrigan? He certainly seems, yes, absolutely. He seems very desperate to do so.
Okay. So then I would also deduce that he's lying about that. But I mean, that's my personal opinion about it.
Correct.
Was anyway. I just wanted to make doubly sure if there's like a dissonance.
Absolutely correct. Yes, correct.
Well, I certainly have means to establish the veracity of that claim.
If you search the room that was prepared for me, there should have been some stones, black stones in them.
They got already destroyed by the Oct Relicar.
They have been destroyed?
Of course.
Then my father has no way of communicating with you. Those stones allow for us to communicate.
The offer still stands. We will probably meet him at some point. Con, is he all right? Is he in mortal danger?
He's not going to die. I propose a meal will probably...
Well, we have no cook.
A long way. Yes, well, I guess you'll just have to make do with whatever arrives. I stand up, give him a brisk look, and then generally unsympathetically
All right. Back to you, Jorik. Where are you heading? Can't hear you, mate.
You're muted. Sorry about that one. I'm walking up the ship, heading for the infirmary. If I find Ty on the way, but I don't think I will because she's up on deck, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. So I just head to the infirmary to speak to Harrigan.
All right. Well, Harrigan isn't in the infirmary anymore. He's actually left. So when you get to the infirmary, you can see that it's been used, obviously, quite well. But in usual confession, is neat and orderly. So he's not.
All right. Then I head up to the deck to speak with Lieutenant Ty, and then I go look for Harrigan.
All right. As you get up onto the deck, Lieutenant Ty turns around and she says, "Oh, well, I might as well tell you as well, Captain. The vessel that is following us claims to be from the Pharos's private guard, and they're requesting that they be given permission to board this vessel. Apparently they suspect that there's someone on board that belongs to them. Under orders from Captain Adrasai and Captain Saket, I have informed them that we have no such individual on board. I assume that we are to continue on course, sir."
We are an order vessel. Under no circumstances is anyone to board this vessel.
Understood.
Understood.
I should inform you in our current condition, however, if they so choose to try and catch up with us, they can outrun us unless we,
Understood, but if it gets to that, well, it gets to that. We will see. For now, continue our present course. And have, since we can't take off, can you have Naxon just lift the ship slightly out of the water so we're not taking on water anymore? Would that be enough, or would they notice?
They would probably notice, so they're only half a mile away. What do I tell them in response to their request for us to heave to and allow them to board us?
You deny the request, saying this is an order of Astari vessel. We do not allow anyone unauthorized aboard the ship, not even the Pharos's private guard, under any circumstances. Whether or not we have a prisoner on board, we don't need to reply to that just yet. So you may tell them whatever you want. Don't tell them we have them. Don't tell them we don't have them. It is not their business right now. This is an order vessel. It's not their jurisdiction.
Technically, we are in their waters, sir, and legally, we are required to comply with their law unless you have a glowing hand.
It's still glowing, right?
It is probably still glowing, but yeah.
It's
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Not anymore. Okay.
All right. Okay.
Well, you have your orders.
Yes, sir.
If they get really ordinary, come find me.
Very good, sir.
Yes.
She turns to Naxon and she relays the
Oh,
order.
and don't open fire first.
Never, sir.
Oh, and by the way, who gave the order to nail the prisoner to the wall?
I did, sir. That was my call.
Why?
He was a Wraith infiltrator who had sabotaged our vessel, sir. And I was not going to have him escape. Not this time.
Lieutenant, I admire your tenacity, but we do not torture prisoners. Ever. Understood?
Yes, sir. I felt it was more of a restraint than a torture.
We have handcuffs and chains. Use them next time.
Those can be picked, sir. I wasn't sure how to tie up his tail, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought nailing him down would be better.
Yes, next time don't nail down the prisoners. Also, find a better guard than Mios.
Very good, sir. He was eager to provide some form of help, and
He's a child.
He is 13, sir. Or somewhere about there. It's difficult to tell with him specifically.
Are you?
The prisoner was nailed.
Are you talking up to the captain, Lieutenant?
No, sir. Absolutely not.
Good. Dismissed. And I walk off.
You dismiss yourself. Dismissed.
Dismissed.
You're dismissed. I'm leaving.
You can't dismiss me. I dismiss myself. The only one who dismisses people is me.
I'm upset, okay? Sorry.
That's great. It's great. I love it.
It's awesome.
All right.
So funny because this could go so many different ways depending on who speaks with who and such. It's so funny.
Right, it is absolutely a very intriguing situation. All right, so Naxon starts to do the starbursts and flipping and flapping as he tries to relay that fairly complicated message over to the Sagetti vessel. Adrasai and Saket, you are in the map room. You've cast your comprehend languages, and you're now trying to dive into this book again.
Well, yes, after saying, I'll give her the hourglass and go, wait about 10 minutes, then turn it over. Once the sands run out, come shake me out of it. Because either I'll be back before then, or something has gone wrong when my comprehend languages spell runs out. But I want to find out what happens while I'm in there, if it does take that long.
I'm waiting 10 minutes, and then I'm turning over an hour-long hourglass.
Yes.
I'm essentially giving you an hour and 10 minutes.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So that I have about 10 minutes after the spell runs out. Because I don't want you to pull me out before then, because I want to know what happens when it does.
I have to find a book that teaches me this language.
I'm sure I can teach you the spell as soon as we have more than 5 minutes of rest at a time.
I don't think it works like that with me.
Well...
We've tried this before. It didn't work.
I know. You know I love you in spite of your magical difficulties.
Magical challenge.
Yes, magical challenge. It's all right.
It's fine.
Right,
One day I'll work it out. Okay. One day. Work it out. Okay. All right.
And then I just open it and I just... All right, let's do some math.
Okay.
I'll explain later.
Yes, wave them by.
No, not that.
All right, so Adrasai peers into the book and then suddenly goes lifeless. And there's a thump as the head.
I need to keep a pillow, like...
Right.
I guess I find a handy pillow somewhere
Right.
in the map room and stick it under.
Now, I need you to give me a perception check, if you please, Saket.
Right, okay.
May I just interject that if at all possible, Connor's going to seek a good 8 hours sleep
Right.
at this point.
What?
Okay.
You didn't get your rest on the elevator up?
It's an elevator.
It was 1 hour, not 8.
It was 6 hours.
Yeah, 6 hours. But there were things
Take the elevator.
that trip as well.
Yeah. So,
Elves only need 4
I
hours
was
of meditating.
typically arguing with
well.
Blaxton.
good for you.
Put the freaking animal in the stable by now. Okay, my perception was 18.
18. All right. So as you go to move Adrasai's head, the book is open, and you cannot help but panic slightly when you see that the book has got a rather detailed woodcut of an image that looks exactly like Adrasai on the main page.
I'm sure I've been there before.
Right, but as you watch this woodcut, because you kind of look at it and you go, that's not a bad likeness. The figure gets smaller and smaller as if they're walking into the page until eventually
that's cool.
you can't see them anymore.
Uh-oh.
Just disappear around the chapter headings, taking
Right.
that kind of.
Right,
So
so
bookmark the woodcut.
Oh.
Just in case.
oh, yeah. Come back! When they
It
find
is
you
not,
reading
you
at the
know.
page, come back, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll have to find a piece of ribbon or something, because I think if I dog ear the page, I'll get a lot of trouble.
It's okay. I'll get you to safety.
And everyone wondered why the lady started talking to her book. Anyway, all right. So, Adrasai, where are you going? Because you step into this all too now familiar space, and pages just start to pile up.
Not familiar enough.
Right.
I'm going to try to go back to that place I found with the stones and the dance moves that brought me to that equation.
Right.
Because I just want to figure out what these things do.
Okay. You concentrate and you see the stones in your vision. And when you open your eyes again, you can see there's just pages and pages piling up. And when you think about dance and the stones, for a moment, the dance steps come up with these stones, and then there's just a barrage of traditional dance from various races all over the world. And then there's traditional dress worn during these traditional dances, and then the festivals that are associated with the traditional dances. Where are you focusing? Because it's just piling up as you stand there watching this.
On the stones, on that equation, the stones.
All right.
I mean, Adressai is very sort of eager to pounce new things, but I don't think they're ADD kind of person.
Right.
I think they can be extremely focused. I mean, considering how they learned magic in the first place, how they learned to read in the first place,
Right.
they're a very focused person when they want to be.
You get the sense, though, that as focused as you might be, every now and again, you're looking at this dance maneuver, which you're not sure what it does exactly, because the frustrating thing is that whomever wrote this, whoever described this dance, obviously assumed that the person would know what the stones did. So they're describing a dance that, whilst you might know that it's a dance, you're not sure if it's a waltz or a foxtrot or a tango or a salsa or because it just doesn't say it. It's assuming that you know, whoever wrote this particular book. But whilst you're looking at these pages, every now and again, it almost feels as if there's a sneaking in of another page that's being very, it almost feels as if someone's sliding the page very quietly on top of your other pages, trying to get you to read other stuff. And
the page being apologetic.
Yes, it's apologetic literature. That's what it is, basically. It's yeah, and when you look at the page, it immediately it starts to form, and you realize that it's a page on the oral traditions of the lizard folk of the upper forests of Eldan. And then you sort of dismiss it. It's like, no, I'm focusing on the dance. Focusing on the dance. And for a while, you continue to learn the dance, and then another page.
What?
Exactly. So that's exactly what starts to happen. But as you do that, as you start to smack pages away, it starts to bring more pages, because it seems like it's now becoming this sort of game.
Is this like the magic carpet in Aladdin?
Right.
Yeah.
Where, yes, eventually you sort of go, stop. And all the pages are just hovering there, and you refocus. So you have the opportunity now to learn the dance steps to one dance. But you have about 20 dances to choose from, and you don't know which any of them do. So you're just going to choose one at random and learn the dance steps, or are you going to try and find and spend more time looking at what the dances evoke?
I think I'm going to look at what the dances evoke, and I mean, if I can't find any sort of instruction manual, I'll start looking at, like, what are the histories of the stone? Who made them? What did they make them for? Kind of thing.
Aha. Okay. I'm going to need you to give me an intelligence check, if you please.
Yes. Oh. That is 10. Not great.
10. Okay. No, that's absolutely fine. I'm just going to make a little bit of a note here. All right. Back to Con and Blaxton. What are the two doing?
So the last time I was still with the prisoner, kind of keeping guard over him,
right?
Kind of looking at him, kind of thinking over what he said, what I believe is true, what I believe is a lie. So the ship is not necessarily very big, right? I mean, it's a fairly small vessel.
Relatively speaking, yes.
Yes. So I would then just be waiting to hear if any news come. Now, the only question that I do have is the communication device, the kind of earpieces. Are they in this room as well?
Yes. There's only one, and it's the far end of the...
right, outside and of reach of the...
Yeah, I think that's near my office.
Yeah.
The Master at Arms chambers.
Okay.
It's just in the back of the room.
So I could get information if I need be. Okay, then that's it for what I'm doing right now. I'm basically waiting for information of anything that I would be needed to, like questions or whatnot. And I don't know that there are certain things happening, so I can't act on that yet.
Right. Con?
Well, disgruntled somewhat. Having established the prisoner's not okay and not dying, kind of leave Blaxton to it, and I guess I have vague intentions about getting some sleep because I haven't had a decent night's sleep in a while.
So that's something that is something I would have asked you before you left. Then, when Yorick was still with us, about the poison and detecting if it's still with him, because that should have been is something we should be doing within the next few hours, not wait like a day or two and then see if there's any poison, right? If there's any.
Yes, correct.
Because I can do things about this stuff, not very well, but like if you can do something about it.
All right. I'll go find the cook.
Okay.
So Harrigan is basically hanging in his bunk, looking sorry for himself. You can see that he's shuffling through various pages of scrawl that looks like Sagetti writing. It looks like a bunch of numbers with names written next to them. Possibly could be actual recipes that he's busy going through. The moment he hears your footfalls, though, he leaps out of his bunk and stands to attention as best he can.
Hello, Captain. I'm apparently here too.
That's right. You were also going to go and look for him. Absolutely. Sorry. Yeah. So, yes, you both arrive at the same time. It's much easier that way. Yes. Right. So there we go. Con. Yes. As you come from the one side of the ship, Jarrett comes from the other.
Captain.
Coming to check on the poison, are you? Or the whatever it is.
Yes.
Very good. Mind if I join you? I have some questions for the...
I rather suspected you would. Yes, well, let's get this over with, shall we?
You look terrible, by the way. You should get some sleep.
I keep trying, but the universe is working against me.
Universe, did you hear that?
Harrigan holds up the page. These are recipes. They're nothing more than the recipes.
Yes.
Okay.
Ciphers.
Yes, disguised as Sagetti cuisine.
Do sit down, Harrigan.
He grabs a barrel and sits down.
Where are we? In his chambers or in the
it's in the crew bunks.
In the crew bunks.
Yeah.
If you could just give me your hand.
There's no one else here, right?
No. Everyone else is trying to keep the ship from sinking.
Yeah.
He gives you his hand without question.
Will you? No, just kidding.
The room is in the brig.
A quick visual examination. Does his skin feel clammy? Are his pupils affected in any way? Does his complexion look funny? Before I get around to casting Detect Poison or Disease.
It does look as if he's been crying, but other than that, you're not picking up anything specific. Yeah.
Well, I've finished off this little examination by casting that spell.
All right. And yes, when you cast Detect Poison, and there is a residual trace of it that shows up just on the corners of his mouth and on his one hand in the crevice of the thumb and index finger. There's a light tracing of the poison. As you look closer, you realize that it's a fairly common powder that's obviously been applied to a cup or something that he was holding. That's contact poison. And if you continue to look at it, you smell it, you taste it a little bit. Well, you don't really taste it too much, but you kind of get this sort of scent from it, right? Yeah, you kind of Snort
Yeah,
like
mix it.
you,
Yes, this is.
yeah, this is
Now I'm under control of the prisoner.
I scraped some
right.
and
Yes.
put it in a vial with some liquid, which will change colour depending on what it is.
Correct. So it's not a poison that you're all too familiar with, but it certainly detects as it's mind altering in some shape or form. Yeah, it's not very strong either, and the effects probably won't last longer than maybe an hour or two. The fact that the powder is on his hands just speaks to the delivery method.
I rather suspect you were something of a cheap date last night, Harrigan.
He looks from you to Jorik and then back to you. Yes, it was only one drink. So.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, you were drugged. There's a fairly powerful, mind-altering intoxicant on your residue on you.
You tripping.
More than enough to have facilitated you becoming quite suggestible.
He sort of looks at his hands, he looks at you.
I'd go have a very good wash, if I were you. There's still some of it on you.
He looks at you, Jorik, with your permission, sir.
I'm sure it'll wait until Jorik's had his questions answered, but I've had mine answered. Thank you, Harrigan.
Yes, go get some sleep, Con.
Captain Con, before you go, what would it have done, the poison?
Permanent boner.
Priapism, sir. Priapism.
As I say, it would have made you quite suggestible, compliant, helpful,
but
get to please.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you, Doctor. He then looks at you, Jorik.
I actually only have a very few questions. If you could describe to me what you remember from that night. Yes. Where you went, why you found this Graith. Just describe it to me.
I was sitting in this tavern collecting these recipes, he says, holding up the recipes, when I noticed there was this Graith sitting at the far end of this tavern. He looked as if he'd been begging for scraps and food, and well, I was there once myself, so I know what it's like. I went and bought him a meal, and you know this look that Adressai gives you when they walk into the kitchen and you are preparing fresh bread or chicken?
Oh, that look, yeah.
The book look.
Yeah, that was the look.
The book look.
They gave me, and I'll be honest, I couldn't refuse. Anyway, I bought more food. He then offered to repay me by buying me a drink, which I accepted, of course, and then we decided it would be better to go back to the ship temporarily, sir, for things.
I see.
Let this be a lesson, kids. Never leave your drink unattended.
Indeed.
Never accept unopened drinks. Or opened drinks.
Don't take them back to your place. Find a handy B&B.
Watch out for contact poisons.
Anyway,
well,
yes.
In the future, be more careful with who you accept drinks from, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Uliantus. And we will see what repercussions come from this. But you will get to keep your head for now. I smile.
Thank you, sir. You have no idea. I will make it up to you. I swear I will. I have all these recipes which I did gather.
Well, you'll have plenty of time to prepare them since you are confined to ship until one of us says otherwise, which may be some time.
I understand, sirs, and I thank you for your understanding.
Very good. Right, I need to...
All right, so Con goes to his quarters, closes the door, and then hammers it shut, and then...
Face plants into the bed.
The bed, all right.
Same here, actually. I need new, clean clothes. I need to wash off all this freaking blood I'm covered in.
That's right.
Just
okay.
a mess.
So that's what you're going to do. Blaxton, you're still with the prisoner. There is a moment where, after a while, Lieutenant Ty comes down the steps, and she looks at you and she says, "Sir, I believe that my security was insufficient last time. You've just returned to the vessel. I don't think it's appropriate that you have to stay on guard. Can I not replace you with some of the crewmen, sir?"
That is possible, certainly, but I was the only one here while the other captains were doing their jobs and, well, the other crewmen were busy unsinking the ship.
Absolutely, sir. And I have good news on that front. Quallen informs me that the vessel is not likely to sink, sir. As soon as we've got out of our little diplomatic incident, we will be...
What incident are you talking about?
There is a Pharos ship, sir. They requested to board us, but we instructed them that that was not possible. They have not returned yet with the response, sir.
All right. If they pester, well, inform us. And the only way I would give, they will not step on foot, step on the ship, set foot on the ship. That's phrasing. The only way how we could deal with them is maybe if we could see them, go to them. But
absolutely,
due to security reasons and others,
I'll continue to delay them, sir. Now I have 2 crewmen who will take over from you, sir, if you so choose.
Absolutely, and if he would do anything suspicious, shoot him.
If I might, sir, a question.
Of course.
Do you think it was inappropriate for me to nail a potentially dangerous saboteur to the side of the ship, sir?
It was zealous, but I trust in your sane mind to identify the situation and the appropriateness. You don't know what they could do with their paws. They have claws after all, so I don't know. Maybe I would have not done it. I was a little bit surprised by being greeted by Mios.
We were a little short-handed, sir, and his height restricts him from bailing as best as the other guards. I also thought since he was nailed to the wall, he was unlikely to pose a flight risk.
Well, I shrug and say, like, Con didn't seem too perturbed. He didn't like it, but I mean, I just shrug and say, well, it's really Jorik's forte. So, it's his decision, but I'm not above doing these things.
You see the faintest of a smile spread across her usually very serious features as you say that you're not above those things. Absolutely. Thank you, sir. She turns and waits for the rest of the help to arrive.
So with that, once the other crewmen come to kind of change shift, I would then go to my not office, my quarters, and for the first time in some time, actually don some armor. And change clothes. So like the clothing that which was previously at least dirty from kind of moving through dusty and tunnels and stuff. Kind of change that, kind of exchange the money that I have, put it back, and yada yada yada. I'll do all these kinds of things. Put the creature that I have still, I guess, on my arm or wherever. Put it in the stables. Get my armor. Get my my sword cleaned and go up deck and see what the other following ship is doing, because I don't trust it that they will stay put, because I know that they have certain interest in our ship right now.
Right, absolutely. Okay.
Quick question. Does the ship stock arrows? I don't mean ballista arrows, normal bow arrows.
We have an armory, right?
There is.
Yeah, we do have an armory.
Yes.
In that case, I restock arrows as well.
I'm out. Not anymore.
Now I have all the arrows. All right.
Yes.
So, Saket, the hour and 10 minutes fly by as you sit there with absolutely nothing to do. Is there anything that you are doing whilst you're waiting?
Well, being Saket, she probably wouldn't stay still for very long, so she would have wandered around the map room, probably tried really hard not to go into a trance. Also desperately tired.
Right. Watch the sand running through the hourglass. Yeah. Tap it to see if it goes fast.
Sometimes there's like sand sticking on the outside, so it just like drops a little bit suddenly.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we did it where we did, so that she could like peek outside and make sure things were being handled right.
It's a nice sunny afternoon. It's really cool breeze blowing in from the sea. There's a gentle rocking.
Occasionally she'll look out onto the deck.
Right.
Ooh. Okay. How long has it been?
You sort of look at the hourglass.
I don't think
it's moving. I don't think it's moving. And you sort of turn it upside down. Oh, it is moving.
No!
Oh, shit. All right.
And every so often I might lift Adresai's head to like look at the wood cutting again to be like,
right.
Yeah, and maybe clean up the drool. Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
Right.
He wakes up with the fur like this.
Yeah. like the whiskers like
yes. Oh, and then I think like, okay, I'm also quite hungry. So I might ring for Missos. With some food and some fish for Adresai, and I'm probably going to stick the fish near her nose near the time.
You spoke up. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
No, I accidentally punched you in the head.
And suddenly,
who did that?
Adresai only sees like recipes of fish.
Right.
So I'm like happily dipping some flatbread into some hummus and just poking the fish dish closer and closer to Adresai's nose until I think it will wake her up.
Right. So
is that working?
Yeah, the dish that you get brought by Mios is an interesting collection of various things which you'd never expect to find on the same platter. There's an odd collection of sweet breads with cheese and
I didn't ask for testicles.
There's some grapes as well, and then there's an orange because apparently those go well together. Yeah, so there's this collection of obviously whatever he could find or reach within the kitchen was then sort of put onto the board, and then he brought that up. But as that last grain of sand drops through, there is no sign from Adresai whatsoever.
Okay, Mios, we're going to need some heavy artillery here. Go get the cheese.
Oh, God.
Go get the what? I thought...
The cheese. Yes, the hidden stock of cheese.
The secret cheese.
The sticky one.
The really stinky, mature...
Oh, all right.
Cheese.
Okay. He goes rushing
off.
off.
We said we weren't going to talk about this.
A few minutes later, he comes back with this very black clay pot that has a lid on top, which has then been bound with Hessian rope in
wax sealed.
Okay.
Protected runes inscribed on a wunderbaum.
I really hoped I would get some more cheese before I had to do this, but okay, let's break Let's break the seal.
Another hole is blown at the side of the ship.
Blast of
Precious Stash.
dairy
Okay.
gas. No, so, all right, so you open up the...
So, yeah, and
the-
it's like a really pungent, mature
Absolutely.
number 5 cheddar, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And our followers just see people jumping off ship.
And another mushroom cloud. What is
Right,
everything
and
you
you
do?
just
The Pharaoh guard just
Right.
turns around and
Like
says,
even the smell of it burns
Yeah.
the roof
So
of
it's
your
this
mouth.
very pungent aroma of that particularly strong. It's what is that sort of? It gets to the back of your throat and it kind of starts to grow there, doesn't it? You start to feel as if you're
It's like
starting your own.
scratching
You're
on the
gonna
back
make
of
me
the
throw up.
That's
Right.
right. So it's this really, really pungent aroma, and that really reaches through. Now, Adrasai, the reason why you're not being woken up by all of this is because currently you are standing in a rather curious position.
uh-huh.
There is a large field around you, and growing out of this field, there's this tall grass. But conveniently, the grass has been stamped flat in a fairly large circle, and you're standing in the middle of that circle. At the far end of the circle is this magnificently tall pyramid structure that reaches up at least 7 or 8 elevations. Now, it looks familiar insofar as it looks similar to what the Ice Elves had, but this makes the Ice Elf structure look like a dwarf toy in comparison. This is a mega structure, and the carvings are very, very different. Instead of that very graceful elvish carving, this is very heavy, very robust, very square looking. If you didn't know better, you'd say that dwarves had carved it. It just stretches up, and there's a central staircase leading right to the top. That would be very pretty. And of course, then there's jungles that stretch out in all different directions around you beyond the grass and the grass circle that you're standing in. But standing directly in front of you, and apparently rather upset with you, is this fairly wizened-looking lizard man. And he has this headdress of bone, skull, looks like plated gold, sort of strips have been built into it. And then this large crown of bright blue and bright yellow feathers. The rest of it is this necklace of teeth and bones and things. And he's standing there and he's prodding you with this stick and hissing at you quite loudly. He seems very, very upset you're not doing something. To your horror, you realize that your comprehend languages has run out. But you also don't see any pages anywhere. You feel this intense heat of this tropical sun beating down on you.
Uh-oh.
Right. How did I get here? Was it just sort of I showed up here when it ran out?
Yeah, you were reading about the dance and you wanted to know who wrote about the dance. So then a page popped up and there was this name, Chak Quantil, which started to get your attention because Chak Quantil sort of appeared quite a few times. And what Chak Quantil is, or was, or may have been, you started to read about it. It was this vast empire that's rumored to have existed way back when. We're talking 16, 17,000 years ago. Now, Chak Quantil was a particularly vicious empire that tried to take over most of Braxia and were thankfully defeated by an elvish coalition army that met them in glorious battle. Now, the problem was, and the reason why the Chak Quantil was so close to overthrowing the entire planet, was that they had incredible magic power. But nobody knows where that power came from, so the elves were finding it very difficult to defeat. That's as far as you got, and then suddenly the pages seemed to, as you turned the page, suddenly you were standing in this circular field with this lizard folk prodding you.
Right. I sort of step back and I say, I'm terribly sorry. I'm not sure quite how I got here. I give him a sort of deep, slightly flourished bow to be polite.
With an amazing dexterity, he smacks you across the back of the head and then takes the stick and he jabs it into the ground in this series of thumps. And as he smacks the ground illuminates temporarily in this greenish glow. And he smacks the ground 3 times to the left, then he smacks it 3 times to the right, then he smacks it 3 times behind him and 3 times in front of him. And then he says, Shah!
Shah?
The stick swings just past your nose.
Oh, okay.
Shah!
I have a question. These left, right, behind, front, did they correspond to any of the dancers that I saw?
Most of the dancers seem to have, obviously, intricate footsteps and that kind of thing. Yes, 1 or 2 of them seemed to have a very hopping-like action rather than the more graceful sliding movements of an elvish dance.
I try to do that hopping in the thing and sort of while keeping an eye on him to see how he reacts if he's going to hit me again.
Right. Give me a performance check.
Oh, God. 9.
Right. So if anyone has tried to watch a cat walk around with butter on its paws, it's very similar to this kind of effect where there's this weird sort of prancing around, the tail gets in the way, everything gets in the way. He turns to you and he says, Shiva, I told you. This is, and then suddenly the world explodes in this blue vein structure which just grows up around you and wraps around him, dragging him down into oblivion. And suddenly you wake up with your head on the table, looking into the very concerned face of Saket and Mios, who are both holding their noses.
I'm not holding my nose.
You're not holding your nose.
I'm ready to eat that.
Right. So the terrified face of Mios as he's watching Saket about to take a bite out of this particular cheese. And then you get hit by this aroma of fish, and then there's some citrus, and then there's the sea outside and the rocking of the boat, and it just all suddenly comes rushing back to you. Can you roll a d6, please?
4.
4. That's how many constitution points you lose, because you feel as if you're still there.
Oh, God.
You're now suddenly here, and it's like you've been pulled out of a dream as you're about to hit the ground. You suddenly are awake, and it's just disorientating, and it's insufferable.
Ow. Okay. That was the worst possible way. We need to...
Would you like some cheese?
No, I don't want cheese. I don't think I ever want cheese again.
What about fish? Mia says, pushing forward several fish.
No, I don't feel so good.
She's really ill. Someone should go get Con.
No, I'm fine. I just need to...
No, Captain, I'm the acting doctor while Captain Con is sleeping.
You're the acting doctor?
I'm also
Better not get injured right now.
I closed the book.
I'm the acting chef too.
Okay. Mios?
Yes?
Prescribe me some sleep, and I think we'll be fine.
I guess we'll take her back to her cabin.
Yes, that's a good idea. All right.
And then after the sleep, you'll tell us what you found in the book.
Yes. I think I may have learned a way to cast spells with my feet.
With your feet?
Yes, a lizard man told me.
A lizard man?
Yes, it was very rude.
A rude lizard man taught you how to cast spells with your feet.
Yes, it makes perfect sense, I promise. I just need to not have cheese in my face right now. Or I'm going to put something else on that plate that is not as appetizing.
I'll eat the cheese.
So you kind of Mios helps Edricide down. to their quarters for sleep. Blaxton, you're basically the only one who's still on deck, and the
Still awake.
right. The Pharos ship has maintained its distance of just under half a mile, and they're busy signaling with their flags again. And Naxon is busy reading it, and you can see his lips moving as he's sort of working out what they're saying. He turns back to you and he says, "Sir, they've informed us that they will be launching an official complaint to the Order about non-compliance. Should I respond?"
So I basically asked him to get me up to speed. So what exactly did they tell us? They tell us did they want to board our ship?
Yes, sir. They initially said there is a person aboard that is of interest to them, they think, is aboard the vessel, and they requested permission to board us.
All right.
And Captain Adversai and Saket told me to tell them under no circumstances would they allowed to board the ship.
That's fine. That's fine. All right. Give me a second. And I would... so Yorick is still out and about, right?
No, by this stage,
My quarters.
in his quarters. Con's in his quarters.
But he should be fine, right? Because he already slept on his way up.
Yep. I just needed new clothes.
Right. Okay. So I would then give basically while it does this, I know this takes some time, and they wouldn't this isn't like instant messaging, so they wouldn't necessarily expect like immediate answer, right? So I have a little bit of time.
Correct.
So I would go to Yorick and tell him basically that I think we should kind of deal with this situation. Or Yorick, I think this is the situation. Yada yada yada. I think we should need to deal with this right now. What do you think if we go towards them rather than having them board us?
Yes, I don't want them on the ship under any circumstances, but we can definitely speak to them. The skiff works on water, right?
Yes. So, so here's a Dungeon Master question. I assume, since this is a top secret ship, that we don't need them to let them on our ship anyway, right? Like compliance in the sense of, like, they can ask this question and we should answer them, yes, but not in the sense of, oh yeah, please show us our engineering room where we are not allowed in as well, right?
Absolutely correct. You're 100% correct. The nation is absolutely within their bounds to ask you if they can come aboard. Right. Absolutely, you're within your bounds to say no. So what this sounds like is that this is a Coast Guard who's not used to being told no. And they're kind of skirting on the edge of, it's kind of our jurisdiction, but it's not really our jurisdiction.
Yeah, and I mean, they have a vested interest in us, so they would prod and pot, like they...
Correct.
All right. So I think that's the easiest way. So I would say this to Yorick, and if he's fine with that.
Yes. And I mean, the prisoner is a prisoner of the Order right now.
First and foremost, because he breached security on our ship. But let's see what they have to say. If they let him get through the net of their security, really it is their incompetence. And I want to have a word with them anyway, because they shot out our ship.
Indeed.
All right. Just before the two of you are going to get onto a skiff and go back to them?
So basically tell Naxun to get them information that we will come to them to speak.
Saket, what are you going to be doing? Because everybody else is sleeping at this point. So
well, yeah, I think after she's eaten the cheese, that's probably going to lead to very interesting trance state dreams.
Okay. This is going to get lost in this
hypnotoad.
Right. You are one with the aroma. Okay, so that's.
I have one more thing I want to do before I go to sleep.
Right.
I want to check in my room. I assume I have a lot of various books and scrolls. I want to take a book that's in a language that I don't know and see if I understand it.
No.
Don't.
No.
Huh.
You want to take a book in a language you don't understand?
Yeah, right. Because
okay, gotcha.
If what that thing did was teach me another way to comprehend languages, but it only works in the book, I'm just going to collapse on the bed.
Right. Okay. So Saket's out. All right, fine. So the two of you get onto a skiff. They signal back. That is perfectly acceptable. And they'd be happy to welcome you aboard their ship.
So, yeah, this time I'm with Alma.
Right.
Me too, actually. It's
Now
not
that
much
you
of an
are
armor,
over
but it is an
the
armor.
ocean, yes. All right. So, yes, you jump onto the skiff. Naxon will happily pilot it for you if you so choose.
No, he should please pilot the ship at the big one. We can handle the small one.
All right. No problem. Okay, so the two of you scull out over the ocean back
Sure.
towards the Sagetti ship, which is this very impressive three-hulled catamaran type structure, very similar to the sand ships. That you
Yeah,
correct.
just a bit bigger.
Just very much bigger and with more sail. And as you approach, you can see they're also much better armed. Multiple ballista in the fore and in the aft of the ship give them a full 360-degree sort of firing range. And the ship slows down so that the skiff can dock alongside and ropes are cast across, of course. And standing on the front gangway of the vessel, as you climbing up, I'm assuming, since they're obviously welcoming you aboard, is this very proud-looking Sagetti elf, and he gives you both the once over. You are the captains of the vessel, yes?
Two of them.
Then you are welcome aboard the Eye of the Pharos. I thank you for taking the time to talk to us. There is much that we need to discuss. And I understand that you are obviously in a hurry to leave Sajet waters.
Actually, that's not entirely true.
That makes me very happy. We have reason to believe that there is a certain individual aboard your vessel which he has committed crimes against the Pharos, and the Pharos would very much like to speak to him.
So we're standing on... So this is a catamaran, right? So the question is, does it even have like a under deck, like a deck and like a...
Yeah, so you can see that it's got a very flat surface, obviously, and at the back there seems to be a housing structure for the crew, that sort of thing. He hasn't yet invited you in. It's still standing on the deck.
So basically still on the steps?
No, he let you get onto the actual deck itself, but not very much.
All right, so he's not going to kick 300 is over the board immediately.
No.
All right, so then the next question, before I actually talk with him, I actually want to see what the situation is. How many sailors are here? How are they armed? Do they look menacing or not? Can I take them?
So yeah, you have a look at the crew complement. There are probably 12 armed men. They're armed in the Sagetti style, so it's a white linen kilt and vambraces and greaves. And then the sort of silver chainmail, scale mail, really, that they're wearing over. And they've all got bows and things as well as a longsword each.
Do they have these interesting staffs?
There are 4 that have those staves, and they're standing right next to the doors into that block-like building, or room anyway, that's at the back.
Okay, so they stand apart, they look different, they look more regaled. And
very different. Very
right.
different.
So my assumption is that they are the order, like they are the Horus Guard or however they are called,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
And the rest are just the normal.
Correct. These guys, they don't look like they belong on the ocean. Their armor looks quite heavy. They've got these very tall, circular helmets.
Got it.
And
So that is what I wanted to know. This is like normal, but obviously now I have like a better feeling. So I would then say, well, not to fall in with the door into the house here, but I'd rather ask permission to come aboard.
absolutely. You are guests of the Sajet Empire. Please allow us to take you to those who would have words with you, says the captain.
Yes.
And he leads you to the 2 doors, which he opens. And inside you can see rather opulent settings. They seem to be rather hastily put up. And there is a single Sagetti elf. He must be maybe 400 years old, somewhere around there. He looks fairly old.
That is old, all right.
Yeah, he looks fairly old. Not dressed in the same regalia as everybody else. He's wearing a fairly neat cut linen shirt and kilt as well. And very studious looks about him. And when he sees you, his face lights up. Ah! I was not expecting to see the order on board our vessel. When the captain informed me that that was your plan, I was very, very, very happy to see that there is still cooperation between the order and the Sajet people. I am Knumas, and I am requesting that you hand over the individual that we believe to be aboard your vessel.
Yes. Do you want to start? Or
No, go ahead.
Right. Yes, I'm very happy that there is still cooperation between the Order and the people of the Sajet. That is why I absolutely am feeling very sure of the situation why you would explain why you shot at our ship.
Our operatives were tracking a very dangerous Graith spy who happened to have smuggled himself aboard your vessel. We had means to track him, and that led us to a specific location on your ship where we tried to solve the problem in a delicate matter without breaching our pacts that we've made with the Order. None of my operatives were ever on board your vessel at any time.
But you attacked our boat, and I kind of look at him. Con would say ship.
I was informed by my operatives that they did everything in their power to ensure that the damage to your vessel was as minimal as possible. I would also like to extend the hand of opportunity for our shipyards to repair your vessel to your specifications at our cost, obviously.
And I nod to myself and say, we had similar dealings in the past, and we will not repair our ship in your dry docks because of it, but I'm happy to write you a receipt. And trust me, since we are a Hastari ship, there are certain quality standards that must be adhered and certain arcane enchantments that are fairly expensive.
Nothing is too expensive for the Sajet Empire, I assure you. But I also understand your concern for your vessel and your desire to keep it within the family, so to speak. As to the matter of the operative, he is of absolute high priority for the Pharos to retrieve back again, and he would make it well worth your while to comply.
So at this point, I would take a look at Yorick because he's kind of handling prisoner business a little bit. I mean, I have my ideas what I want to do with him, but we didn't speak about it, so I wouldn't take
Comply? Is that the word you want to choose?
Voluntarily hand over the Graith operative who's undoubtedly still alive aboard your vessel.
So here's a question for rules in the setting. Like, we're outside on the ocean at this point. Is this still Sajeti Empire, or is this basically like, as it is like in reality, if you're in deep waters, then you kind of...
Yeah, you're right at the edge of the Sajet space, cool. Of Sajet...
All right, that's what I wanted to know.
You can no longer see land, so as far as
correct. So that's why I asked, because it kind of gives us a little bit of different position.
Absolutely.
Look, we have no obligation to hand him over to you.
None whatsoever.
He is, after all, a spy among our ship right now, which means the Order has interest in him as a breach of security.
Would it allay your fears if I were to assure you that his operation had nothing to do with your vessel, and that it's merely happenstance that he appears to be aboard? He has been working within the Sajet Empire for a few years now. We haven't had much to go on until the other day when he made a fatal mistake. Unfortunately, he's a very dangerous operative, one who cannot be trusted.
Graith usually are. Now, I'm very interested in why you are so certain that even though he boarded our vessel against our better judgment, that's something I guess we have to admit here, why you are so certain that he did not want to spy on us.
That may very well have been his plan once he had boarded the ship, but since he's only been on your vessel for a day and a half, whereas he's been here for 5 years, I think we can safely say he's been spying on us more than on you.
Oh,
the Sajeti Empire would be eternally grateful if you were to assist us in this matter.
You just muted yourself. All right.
I have nothing to say. That's
why. All right. Okay. That's why. And then I would say, yes, that is something. And I'm not. And kind of looking at Yorick at this, how he reacts to it, right? I would say. Okay. I would say I have nothing against handing him out to you.
Excellent.
Depending on what you will do to him and why you are looking for him in the first place. Because my goal here is to kind of go a little bit, okay, what was he actually doing? What did they find out? And what is going to happen to him?
As to his spying purposes, we take any kind of observation very seriously within the Empire. And I can assure you he was looking at things that he shouldn't have been. Far too numerous to catalogue, really. Military deployment tactics, the guard around the Pharos, for example. Minor things which would have no value to the Order, I'm sure. You have purview to wander wherever you so choose. To us, however, it is absolutely vital that he does not return that information to the Great Empire, obviously.
Yeah, we have no interest in involving ourselves in the politics between different countries.
As you shouldn't. You are so right. Yes, that isn't your mandate.
You failed to mention what you're planning to do.
Once we are certain of what it is that he was specifically looking to find, we'll make sure that he will never again be spying on the Sajet Empire. I need
So you're going to kill him?
Details. The Sajet Empire is a timeless empire, and we plan to be around far longer than any lizard might have ever hoped to have ruled for. As a result, criminals of this caliber, we don't just execute them.
All right, and I nod and looked at Yorick and see how he reacts to it. All right, then I say, then we will go back to our vessel, speak to the other captains, confer with them, and then come back and watch what you're actually going to do to him and with him.
I'm afraid that would be impossible to watch here. We are not mandated to fulfill our complete...
And I say, like, he was on board on our vessel. I must make sure that no information that he might have accrued, and even so short time on our boat, goes out. Security must be upheld. I'm sure somebody in your position who had him spy in their country for 5 years and didn't manage to find him can understand such thoughts.
He was particularly effective at appearing to be something that he is most certainly not. Unfortunately, that would place us at an impasse. I have to return him to my overseers in Takatuman, and from there he'll be transported to headquarters. So it's a several-month journey before he will actually arrive at his destination, where he will then be debriefed. So in order for you to observe the entire process, you'd have to assign a crew member to follow him all the way, which I'm not sure is possible.
I just nod and say, like, well, you can go. I promise you that we will stay here with our vessel and wait for you to confer with your commander and see if this can be arranged.
You would want to send somebody to the heart of the Empire?
You
If
must
necessary.
have. If you must have other means to confer with your superiors, maybe your superiors are in Takatuman. It is a great city after all. So I assume, I am sure.
On those lines, you would want to send an operative with this Wraith to ensure that he does not share any information?
No. I am offering you to exchange our prisoner, and that you can debrief him and then dispose of him if the rest of our crew, other captains, are fine with this deal after all, under our watch, and you can do this in Takatuman. If this deal is not to your liking, then I'm very sorry to hear that.
He smiled.
I'm very glad I'm wearing a face veil right now.
He smiles in that look of someone who realizes that he cannot play any other cards. There's nothing that's left to be done here. Since that is unlikely to happen, our interrogation methods can take decades to complete their full cycle. But I understand the situation that we are in. As a result, I would then ask on behalf of the Sajet Empire that you keep him within the Order's control and don't return him to anywhere where he might give his information to the Wraith. If I can at least have your assurances there, I think the Pharos will be placated, if unhappy.
Absolutely. I see no problem with this.
No, and his means of communication with his superiors have been destroyed as well, so he will not leak any information.
Then I suppose we will have to part ways.
I nod.
We will remember your vessel, Captain, so that should you ever return to Takatuman, we'll give you the warmest of welcomes, and we will extend whatever hospitality you might care to have. And we'll make sure that you are protected 24 hours a day whilst on our shore.
I'm looking forward to it. And I have no problem with this at all, as I will hold true to my hand, to my word, and I'm certain to send you the bill as well.
And on that note, we'll be back next week as all these shady deals get made over this one innocent prisoner.
I don't think it's shady at all, actually.
No, actually
No,
not.
it was very well played, actually. It was very well played. Thank you for watching, and if you don't stay for the review afterwards, goodbye until next week. For those of you that do stay, the Dice of Destiny. Sorry, Jono, but when characters go to sleep, there's not much I can do.
You dream vividly.
Well, we could go into the dream sequence, but I've got to save something for later, right?
Dream about.
I mean, he has something to dream of after the last few days, what he's seen.
Right,
So.
absolutely.
Oh, God.
Right.
Those half ogres may come back to haunt him after
Absolutely.
all.
Well, the Dice of Destiny actually says that we start with Con. So, Con, what were your
Perfect.
thoughts?
Well, I enjoyed that, definitely. Yeah, Con's having a bit of an adventure of discovery, really.
Right.
You know,
Quite so.
Eesh. Well, yeah, you know, it takes all sorts. In terms of, for me, Con would not have slept on the way up. It's been in a continuous day for him. So he's running ragged around the ship, having hoped to have gotten home and had a quiet meal and a drink, and collapsed gently into his bunk for a good, proper sleep. And instead he comes in, someone's shot a hole in the ship, and Harrigan's a mess, and yeah, so he's muddled his way back.
This was supposed to be vacation!
Right.
And even though like it takes his character out of action for a bit, it felt like, you know, enough was enough for him. He was going to go put his face in a pillow and woe betide anyone who disturbed him. I needed to replenish my spells. It seemed also with a large enough group, you can let other people sort of have a scene like this one we've just concluded, and everyone's got the space to do that, because you know, strategically taking yourself out, but it wasn't strategic. You know, stepping back and allowing something that narratively works, give other people space to do stuff as well. It kind of all works. I feel like I didn't feel left out. I wasn't expecting to be, you know, brought in at any point unless something interesting happened, you know. So, I mean, again, I thought we had lots of good, fun character stuff from everyone. So I had a good fun just watching as well as participating.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And I think that is a good point as well, is sometimes you have to just know when, all right, look, the other players kind of get on with it and go and investigate. As you say, it is a large group, and there are only so many threads that can be pulled at one specific point in time before it starts to become a bit overbearing. So certainly from my side, I think this is a funny example of where I've got one sentence for today's adventure, and this is what has transpired as a result of that. You just never know what's going to happen when suddenly you give something to the players that they wanted, and then you get to see what they then do with it, which is fantastic. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. It wasn't my intention for it to become a diplomatic incident, and I think it's been diffused very well. That's why I let the game run for a little bit longer than it normally would, because I didn't want to sort of stretch it out over multiple sort of sessions and things. I wanted to kind of wrap it up and say, right, okay, we're done with the Sagetti people now. Now we can move forward and see where we go. It is interesting to see where we do go on that. Jorik, you were doing full interrogation of everybody running around. Give us your dates, blood sample, and blood type or what.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun having to do or getting to do Jorek stuff with people who actually care about facts for once.
Salty, we're on the sea.
Yeah. Jorek has not been happy in the Drow Republic. It's way above his head. He's not used to all the subterfuge and stuff. So this, he feels a strange kind of freedom to be back on the surface and get to do what he's good at. And it was sort of fun to get to use some of my real life skills as well. I mean, it was no complicated interrogations in any way, but just nice to do. And, yelling at Lieutenant Ty was fun too.
Poor old
It was very fun to me because I saw a guy basically, that's an over-exaggeration, but scream. But as I realized that's not stuff you thought about. You're like, okay, what happened here? What happened here? Like,
Yeah.
pick up this on.
Like I said, I had one sentence, right?
Yeah, and I was really like, yes, this makes sense to ask these things. Absolutely, that's great. And on the otherwise, do you really want to like kind of?
Yeah, but the thing is, at that point, I was fully in the police mind. You just ask the subject because you need to pressure them and see if the lie breaks down somewhere, or if it fits all the facts.
I'm under pressure to make sure the lie doesn't break down because it's not a lie. It's just
but that's very interesting. Was very interesting for me because I usually don't try to kind of put a dungeon master in such a situation. I mean, this made sense in this, so that was very interesting to kind of see.
I'm very sorry for that guy, by the way.
No, it's all good.
It was just routine going there.
It's all good, and there's a point where you have to either prepare for you or you don't prepare for. I knew why he was on the ship, and I knew to a degree how he got onto the ship. I didn't expect us to unpack to the minute how he got onto the ship, which is absolutely fine. And
We've got Jorek on board now. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But you never know where the focus is going to be. Saket, you were using some rather interesting magic, the magic of food.
Oh, wow.
The magic of cheese.
If anyone else could hear my stomach now, they'd probably know why I was thinking about food. But yeah, who hasn't been woken up by good food?
Right.
But yes, I think Saket was, she was just being Saket, really. Just running around, doing her thing. Didn't work. Let's try that instead. But it's all been quite interesting. Like we were supposed to be doing other things, like with a certain drow lady that we left behind.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And we haven't got around to doing that. So it's like all of us, that was a very quick 2 hours. And I kept thinking we'd only done an hour.
Right.
So, yeah. Next episode is going to be very interesting.
Absolutely.
Now we seem to be running away with a prisoner. But really, on a national sort of pride sort of thing, I should be handing over to my people.
Right.
On
Where are your people now?
Yeah, but I'm at the Order of Histari, so...
I honestly don't plan to run away with him.
No.
Me?
No, absolutely. Yeah. Blaxton, you seem to have had a good laugh this entire session. I noticed you particularly found the name of this poor prisoner quite...
Oh, yes, because it was like partially German, right? Yeah, they were like...
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I needed a name.
I had the feeling that you could just made it up on the spot.
No, I needed a name, and Hund is obviously German for dog, and Kind is a contraction of Kinder, which is children, and he's the child of a dog. So that's kind of how I got to his name. I thought you'd find him.
His name is Puppy. We can't kill him now.
Oh yes, you can. Have you ever saw John Wick? It was an awesome film.
Yeah, well, do you remember what happened to the people who killed the dog?
Exactly. You really
Let's rewrite that script.
Yes, so that was me having a bit of fun there. So,
it was, so on the humor front, I think it was quite humorous. It was kind of very, very like had some light tones in it. And personally, I as a player, the one thing that I really enjoy is like social constructs of different people, how that worked, and that it was perfect this session to see how different people have different kind of personalities, or characters have different personalities and different goals and behave differently. For instance, I would have completely behaved differently around like if I found the cook saying these things, for instance,
Right.
and later on I met then with different people who then asked, like for instance, Jasani asked me like, was this okay? I was like, yeah, it was not nice. So that was really interesting for me to observe, and this kind of then also extends obviously to the stuff we did before with the Drow, and now with the two empires that are kind of spying on each other, and we are in the almost, maybe soon literally, in the crossfire of it.
Right. Right.
So that was very, very amusing and very fun for me to observe, and I like to kind of play these power games, so that's why I liked the Drow stuff as well, and why I handled the Drow stuff the way that I did.
Absolutely. And handled the Saket captain too. It was a good call to demand that everything happens on the ship.
Yeah, I mean, we can go to, so basically, I don't know if maybe it got lost in translation, but my goal is that if they want to talk with him, they can talk with him, but not without our supervision. And then I want him basically completely kind of disposed, because for me, he's still a spy. He's a spy. He was on our board, and then that's pretty clear what's to be done with him. Now, what's going to happen to our cook is something that's going to be talked with, I'm sure, with the other captains about. Right. Which I have like a few ideas about as well, how Blaxton would handle this, and this is really, and maybe
and I want to mention that we did discuss this in the chat too. Like, what are we going to do with Harrigan? And Blaxton suggested that let's just take it in character and discuss among the captains, and that's just fine. So we'll get to that.
Yeah, so this is actually a great segue to kind of go into detail about that a little bit, because that's why we do this, right? The mindset of Blaxton here is really that he was spying on us, and for the cook's point of view, like he failed. Like either he is spying on us too, which I don't think is the case, but it's a possibility. Either then maybe he just got like, I don't know, blue balls or whatever, and then that he kind of wanted to go there, and then, as Sophie said, then do it there, and don't bring him on our fucking boat. I mean, you're supposed to be professional about this, right?
Get a room.
And the third, exactly. And the third thing is then, if this indeed is true, that he was kind of made malleable to kind of influence and whatnot, then at least, holy shit, he got himself poisoned. That is an extreme security breach still. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to work with him anymore, because that is crazy to do. That is also the reason why back then, when it came up that they can just freely talked about it, I was like, what? No! Right? And now this point, this is an NPC, so I can handle the situation a little bit different and not just kick him off the boat, because obviously to other players, that's not really an option, right? So you can give them a stern talk, and then basically tell them, I was not happy with this, right? But like if it's like with NPCs, they're easier replaceable. So that is certainly something that Blaxton will push for.
Mm-hmm.
Right, well, there we go. So perhaps not as replaceable, Adversai.
Well, certainly not now, and I'm currently the only person who can read this damn book. I was expecting the Constitution hit, because for the first time I went in and you had me roll Constitution saving throws, and I was like, this is going to cause some kind of exhaustion or penalty or something if I use it for too long. But that was a bigger hit than I expected, I have to admit. That was a way bigger hit than I expected. But, I feel like what I did and what happened, it's probably justified.
Right.
And what I found was way more interesting than I thought I would find. Like, I mean, we are talking about, I found what was it? Like 16, 17,000 year old.
Ascensions, at least, right?
From a, which is a very familiar sentence, a lizardy empire who wanted to take over the world. And I'm like, where have we heard that before?
Right.
What are we here to fight against? And I'm like, is this some kind of precursor? Is this some kind of like the frost elves steal these stones from these lizard people? Are these actually dragon artifacts after all? And I'm like, just pre-dragon artifacts count? And I'm like, whoa, right now. I'm just getting the feeling that what I've found is either deep lore or an entirely new level of this campaign. And that's just the sense that I'm getting.
Why not both?
Exactly. Why not both?
Right.
I
And
just
let's hope we don't need to commit collective suicide later.
Don't mention this too easily, maybe too suddenly.
No. I still don't know. This is still just speculation, but
Yeah.
I'm just too tired to do
Well,
that.
speculation might be enough grounds for certain people.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, I don't know. I mean, next session, I'm gonna have to do some history rolls and some research, and
Right.
but
And some resting,
Right.
perhaps.
I think
it's just one of these things where you sort of open a door and you step through and you realize, holy shit, there's an entirely new room here.
Alice in Wonderland, right?
Yeah, exactly. This is suddenly got a lot bigger than what I thought it was gonna be, and which is amazing. And I'm just. You are certainly not helping against this book fixation guy. Not lowering it.
I mean, that's Guy's style, right? Like, if you search in a direction, then usually it's more, as long as you kind of search in that direction, right?
Yeah. No, I am enjoying it, and we're gonna have to, out of character and in character, find some kind of balance as to how I'm actually gonna do this, because like searching in 1 hour increments as someone who does the whole focused study thing for 6 hours is frustrating as hell, especially when you have to go through a labyrinth to get through where you were the last time.
Right.
But
Well, that's something definitely to look at and to sort of contemplate and think about. And something that I will be doing, obviously, it might not feel like it, but we will be having longer times, sort of breaks between adventures if you let them happen. As I would say, it's never a pressure. It's just something that could happen. Maybe not. I don't know.
Somebody blew our ship up when we came back.
You were expecting a spy. You got a spy. Anyway, it's all good. Until next time, thank you for watching. Thank you for staying with us on this very long episode.
Yeah.
We'll see you all again next week. Till then, goodbye.